No toll hikes, motorcycle toll to be abolished by 2019. Government to introduce cheaper RON 95 price. And Goldsmith loses more than R1 million. Good evening, I'm Otto Hoffman for 7 Edition. Now, the Pakatan Rakyat government has unveiled its maiden budget since coming into power in the 14th general election. With the theme Credible Malaysia, Dynamic Economy, Prosperous Rakyat, 2019 budget comes with some tough measures in terms of taxes, plans for further fiscal consolidation, as well as incentives for businesses to prosper and to bring Malaysia's economy back to a stronger footing. The Pakatan Harapan government plans to spend 314.6 billion ringgit for budget 2019, or 8% more than the revised 290.4 billion ringgit for this year. Of this, 259.9 billion ringgit, or 82.6%, will go towards operating expenditure, while the remaining 54.7 billion will be spent on development expenditure. The top 3 ministries to benefit from the OPEX spending will be Education, Health and Finance. Overall, most core ministries will have their OPEX allocations cut from 2018, except for health. Subsidies are estimated to fall to 22.3 billion ringgit from 28.1 billion ringgit this year, as the government seeks to reintroduce the managed float system for RON 95 petrol and diesel. A total of 5 billion ringgit has also been allocated for the restructuring of the rebranded BRIM Direct Cash Aid, now dubbed the Living Aid Assistance, or BSH, benefiting 4.1 million recipients. The government also reduced grants to statutory bodies by 6.5% to 13 billion ringgit due to a reduction in transfers to entities with high cash reserves to discourage reliance on such grants. Instead, more than half of the grants will be directed to public universities and teaching hospitals. In addition, 7.6 billion ringgit will be provided as grants and transfers to state governments. For next year, there will be no toll hikes. In announcing this, the Finance Minister pointed out that this move will cost the government 700 million ringgit.
Dan kerajaan akan membekukan kenaikan bayaran tol di semua lebuh raya dalam bandar intra-city toll pada tahun 2019 yang melibatkan implikasi kewangan sebanyak 700 juta ringgit. Selain itu, kerajaan juga akan memansuhkan tol motosikal di jabatan pertama dan kedua di Pulau Pinang. Kerajaan juga akan memansuhkan tol motosikal di lebuh raya laluan kedua di Johor. Dengan implikasi kewangan diangkarkan sebanyak 20 juta ringgit setahun mulai 1 Januari 2019.
Additionally, the government will give priority to the Johor Causeway and the Malaysia-Singapore Second Link, Link 2, to reduce the difficulties faced by Malaysians and those travelling to and fro daily. For a start, 10 million ringgit is allocated to upgrade the Autogate Malaysia automated clearance system and M-Bike. Now, to help promote healthy living, an excise duty on sugar or soda consumption will be imposed for 2 categories of sugary drinks, and the rate is 40 cents per litre. The 2 categories are drinks containing additional sugar or other sweeteners with sugar content exceeding 5 grams per 100 millilitres, and fruit and vegetable juices containing sugar exceeding 12 grams per 100 millilitres. With this proposal, the Finance Minister also noted that 1 in 2 Malaysians are obese, and the move to impose this excise duty is timely. Meanwhile, the government will increase household electricity bill subsidy from 20 ringgit and below to 40 ringgit and below. In line with the government's intention to implement targeted subsidies, the channeling of the subsidy would be dedicated to the poor and hardcore poor, registered with the e-Kasih program. This, according to the finance minister, will benefit 185,000 accounts with an allocation of 80 million ringgit. Additionally, Lim said that the government would also provide RON95 petrol subsidy of 30 cents per litre to those who own a car with engine capacity of 1,500 cc and below, as well as a motorcycle with engine capacity of 125 cc and below. He said the subsidy will be capped at 100 litres per month for cars and 40 litres for motorcycles. The new mechanism is expected to take effect from the second quarter of next year, with an allocation of 2 billion ringgit. He said the subsidy mechanism was expected to benefit 4 million car owners and 2.6 million motorcycle owners. To enhance the efficiency of resource utilization as well as to curb leakage due to differences in petrol prices and cross-border smuggling, Lim said the government would refloat the price of RON95 petrol in the market based on the automatic price mechanism APM. Now, to curb the rising prices of goods, the government has allocated 20 million ringgit for more effective enforcement. At the same time, consumers are also urged to play a part in helping enforcement agencies on the ground.
Kerajaan akan menggalakkan pengguna untuk turut terlibat dalam pemantauan harga barangan dan mengurangkan khidmat pegawai pemantau harga. Untuk itu, para pengguna digalakkan untuk memuat turut aplikasi Price Catcher sebagai platform pemantauan harga barangan melalui perkongsian data.
Additionally, to stabilize supply and standardize the prices of basic necessities, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, 150 million ringgit will be allocated. In the Budget 2019 announcement, Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng mentioned 7 items in the price standardization program: flour, 1 kilogram packets of cooking oil, rice, sugar, RON95, petrol, diesel and liquefied petroleum gas. Nearly 29 billion ringgit was proposed for healthcare, up to 7.8% over the previous budget.
Kerajaan akan memperuntukkan hampir 29 bilion ringgit untuk perkhidmatan kesihatan yang merupakan peningkatan sebanyak 7.8% berbanding tahun lepas. Peruntukan ini termasuk 10.8 bilion ringgit bagi membaik pulih klinik dan hospital serta pembelian ubat-ubatan dan kelengkapan.
50 million ringgit will be set aside to treat patients with rare diseases, hepatitis C and hemodialysis treatment. 100 million ringgit for health protection scheme with health screening pilot project for 800,000 people from B40 group ages 50 and above. 5 measures will be introduced by the government to assist borrowers from the National Higher Education Fund Corporation, PTPTN, to repay their loans beginning next year. This includes reducing loan repayment amounts for students from B40 households who obtain first-class honours.
Pembayaran balik dengan cara potongan gaji berjadual antara 2% hingga 15% daripada pendapatan bulanan peminjam bergantung kepada paras pendapatan peminjam. Jadual pembayaran balik ini hanya terpakai kepada peminjam berpendapatan melebihi RM1,000 sebulan.
Apart from that, he said tax relief for companies that help settle their employees' loan balances for the year ended 2019 and individual income tax relief for the National Education Savings Scheme, SSPN, would also be raised from 6,000 ringgit to 8,000 ringgit next year. Meanwhile, the remaining loan repayment amounts for those aged 60 and above, as well as those earning less than 4,000 ringgit per month, would also be waived, benefiting 350 borrowers at a cost of 4.2 million ringgit to the government. The government will not pay the remaining $4.32 billion owed by One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB to International Petroleum Investment Co., IPIC and ABAR. The finance minister said instead it will demand the return of $1.46 billion that has already been paid by the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and that the government will go all out to reclaim all the funds which were either lost or stolen from 1MDB.
Pada 30 Oktober 2018, kerajaan telah memohon kepada Mahkamah England untuk membatalkan perjanjian penyelesaian yang dipersetujui oleh pihak International Petroleum Investment Corporation atau IPIC dan Aba Investment PGS daripada Abu Dhabi.
Attorney General Tommy Thomas had previously stated that Malaysia will file a legal challenge over a settlement agreement between 1MDB and Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund (IPIC) negotiated during the premiership of former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak. IPIC and 1MDB had reached an agreement last year in a payment dispute over 1MDB bonds that IPIC had guaranteed. 1MDB had agreed to pay $1.2 billion to IPIC and assumed responsibility for future principal and interest payments for the bonds. Education for a better future. The biggest allocation goes to the Education Ministry, which is to receive 60.2 billion ringgit. That's 19.1% of the total budget allocation for 2019. The Finance Minister said that the allocation will also be channeled towards implementing 14 initiatives next year.
Satu-satunya mekanisme yang terjamin dan mampan bagi mencapai pertumbuhan pendapatan yang lebih tinggi adalah melalui pendidikan yang lebih berkualiti di semua peringkat. Kementerian Pendidikan adalah penerima peruntukan yang terbesar berjumlah 60.2 bilion ringgit atau 9.1% daripada keseluruhan perbelanjaan kerajaan pada tahun 2019.
The 14 initiatives include a 2.9 billion ringgit allocation to assist poor students, 652 million to upgrade and maintain schools nationwide, including Chinese and Tamil type schools, tax exemption for those who contribute for the maintenance of school and public institutions of higher learning, a 100 million ringgit allocation to rebuild dilapidated schools nationwide, 206 billion to develop and prepare training programs at polytechnics and community colleges, 30 million to introduce a fund for technical and vocational training, 400 million to boost research at institutions of higher learning, and 10 million ringgit for the Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation to develop e-sports. And at a media conference after the tabling of the 2019 budget, the Prime Minister said despite the higher allocation this time compared with the previous budget, the government is careful with how the 314.5 billion ringgit is to be spent next year.
Yes, deficit number is 3.7, but you can see that throughout the speech by the Menteri Keuangan, there were measures taken to correct the impact of that deficit. We were very careful about how the money is going to be spent. Although the budget is more than the previous year, but you must remember that we also carry the burden of having to pay our debts which were incurred by the previous government.
The 2019 budget comes against the backdrop of rising global trade risks, with growth forecast to ease to 4.8% this year. Minimum wage will also be raised to 1,100 ringgit nationwide starting January 2019. Lim said this was among the measures adopted by the government to help the people cope with the rising cost of living. As a measure to reduce income gap, public listed companies will also be required to display in their annual reports information on the highest wage and median wage ratios. These include the highest and lowest wages ratios. Listed companies will also be required to state their plans on how to improve their workers' average salaries. At the same time, the government will also be reviewing labor laws, empower the labor market, employee welfare, as well as prohibit any form of discrimination on the part of employers. An industrial appeals court will also be set up to speed up resolutions over disputes between employers and employees. Coming up, news tightening around Jho Low after U.S. charges. Details next. Thank you for staying with us. The Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Shah, will exercise the functions of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong from today to December 31st. His Majesty signed an instrument of declaration on his exercising the functions of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong at the Istana Hinggap Perak today. Sultan Nazrin Shah, who is the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong, will exercise the functions. In the absence of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Sultan Muhammad V, who will be resting following treatment during that period. Article 33 of the Federal Constitution provides for the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong to perform the duties of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong in the absence of His Majesty. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad had earlier read out the instrument of declaration. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail, Chief Secretary to the Government Datuk Seri Ismail Bakar, and Chief Justice Tan Sri Richard Malanjun were also present. The United States Department of Justice, DOJ, has charged fugitive businessman Low Tech Joe, the two former Goldman Sachs investment bankers, over the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB scandal on Thursday. Low Tech Joe, or Joe Low, however, has continued to maintain his innocence and has asked for the public to keep an open mind regarding the case, as he believes that he would be vindicated. A spokesman for Low, who was charged in absentia in New York yesterday, said, as noted in the indictment, the businessman held no formal position at 1MDB, nor was he ever employed by Goldman Sachs or the government of Malaysia or Abu Dhabi. The criminal indictment charged Low, together with former Goldman Sachs bankers Roger Ng and Tim Leisner, with paying bribes to various Malaysian and Abu Dhabi officials. Leisner yesterday pleaded guilty to conspiring to launder money and violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA, and circumventing Goldman's internal accounting controls. He was ordered to forfeit $43.7 million. As for Ng, who was arrested yesterday, he was also charged with conspiring to violate the FCPA and will be extradited to the U.S. to face charges, in accordance with a provisional arrest warrant issued at the request of the U.S. The whereabouts of Low, however, remain a mystery.
The goals that we've set out for ourselves.
Meanwhile, 5 Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC vehicles were seen today in the compound of Datuk Sri Najib's residence until about 12:30 p.m. However, MACC Deputy Chief Commissioner of Operations Datuk Sri Azam Baki said the Commission's officers were sent to the former Prime Minister's residence to gather evidence in support of an investigation and did not conduct any raid on his residence at Jalan Langgak Duta, Kuala Lumpur. He offered no further details on either the probe or the visit. In other news, 4 men armed with pistols fled with approximately 1.3 million ringgit worth of jewellery in a heist at a goldsmith shop in Saujana Impian, Kajang this morning. It was understood that this is the 3rd time that the premises was robbed this year. The incident occurred at about 10:35 a.m. when the 4 robbers wearing full-face helmets burst into the shop. Two of them then threatened the employee on duty with machetes and hammers. One of the robbers, who was standing outside of the premises, also kicked the shop's security guard. The suspects fled with a car and 2 motorcycles. Police are examining CCTV footage of the incident and outside of the store to trace the suspects. The case is being investigated under Section 395 of the Penal Code. The Selangor Police have crippled 7 motorcycle theft gangs which have been active around Shah Alam, with the arrest of 23 gang members. Shah Alam District Police Chief ACP Baharudin Mat Taib said suspects were aged between 17 and 35. In efforts to reduce crime in the district, he said police have launched several raids in the 3rd phase of its crackdown, Ops Lejang Khas. In the raid, 22 motorcycles which were reported missing were recovered, together with 3 motorcycle frames, 5 engines, several motorcycle components and equipment used to tamper with engine registration numbers. 6 individuals have been charged in court, while police are in process of taking action against several others under the Prevention of Crime Act. Police believe they have solved 40 motorcycle theft cases around Shah Alam and its surrounding areas with the arrests. The Seremban Sessions Court has sentenced a 27-year-old man to a day in jail and 2 fines totaling 65,000 ringgit after he pleaded guilty to operating an illegal money remittance business last year. The accused, Muhammad Rizuddin Abdul Salim, had the charges read out to him by an interpreter before Judge Junaidah Muhammad Isa. According to the charge sheet, Muhammad Rizuddin is the sole proprietor of Fatima Warisan Enterprise and had committed the offence between August 4th and August 17th last year at a giant hypermarket in Senawang. For the first charge, he was accused of running a remittance business without a valid license from Bank Negara Malaysia. For the second, he was accused of promoting his business by putting up a remittance service signage outside his premises. For both offences, he was charged under Section 7, Subsection 1 of the Money Services Act 2011, which provides a fine of up to 5 million ringgit or a jail term of up to 10 years, or both upon conviction. The court also ordered the accused 1 month jail for the first offence and 1 week jail for the second if he fails to pay the 65,000 ringgit fines. Substance abuse among students at public and private universities as well as schools this year are still worrying, despite a drop in statistics by about 50%. Selangor Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department Deputy Chief Superintendent R. Sundralingam said what's far more troubling is that most of the cases are drug abuse involving students as young as 13 years old. The most popular student abuse of recreational drugs include marijuana and methamphetamine, with both having exceptionally high demand. In an exclusive media interview, Sundralingam said what's worst is that drugs among students are trafficked or distributed on a first free trial basis.
Untuk tahun ni cuma 190 kes berbanding dengan 245 kes bagi tempoh Januari Oktober. So, kalau kita gunakan ini sebagai satu panduan, memanglah kita boleh cakap yang kita ni berjayalah membendungkan penyalahgunaan dadah di college dan di mana IPTA, IPTS dan sekolah. Tapi saya percaya this figure is just statistik lah. Tapi ancaman tu memang ada. Mungkin ada yang masih ini kita belum tangkap lah.
Investigations have also revealed that most students take drugs for hallucinations, to relieve stress, to stay awake and be energized for long hours of studying. He said the Selangor Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department will from here on conduct frequent special operations in collaboration with School Liaison Officers, PPS, to further curb drug abuses among university and school students. Under the Dangerous Drugs Act, those convicted face a maximum 2 years in jail or a fine of up to 5,000 ringgit. Moving on, let's take a look at clickbait for what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. A father in Gaozhou, Guangdong Province, China, has been detained on Saturday for flinging his newborn girl off a cliff. Now, desperate for a son, the man surnamed Li took the 6-hour-old baby from a hospital and placed her in a nylon bag before throwing her into the woods on Friday. According to local media, police were alerted of the incident after a doctor at Magui Health Center called to report a missing newborn girl from the hospital. 10 hours since the heartless act, the father finally confessed to the authorities. Fortunately, the girl miraculously survived for 12 hours after landing on some tree branches and was saved by rescuers. The doctors examined her and found that she was safe and sound, bearing no injuries, and returned the girl to her mother. Lee told officers he was disappointed that his 4th child turned out to be a daughter, having had 2 girls and a boy. The father said the family was poor and that he was under immense financial pressure. Investigation on the incident is underway. No matter what gender your child may be, you should always learn to love them unconditionally. Now, updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today.
Thank you.